invested yesterday's program in looking into the Jalen Ramsey scenario in general. Where is he going to play? What's he going to do? How does he fit in? Going to look at the other guy today who just might not be the other guy in this trade. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Jonnu Smith is a player I have openly and unapologetically coveted on this program for, I'd say several weeks now, ever since it became common knowledge that Smith and the Dolphins weren't really hitting it off here, and there was a good chance, no matter what he or his agent would say, that he actually wanted out. Well, he's out, obviously, arriving in the mega trade that sent Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Dolphins for Ramsey and Smith, or should I say Smith and Ramsey? See, this is the part that's kind of funny, and it really won't matter much other than for discussion/debate purposes between now and when there's real football. But it's pretty easy to pick up on the vibe from the Dolphins fan base that they had no problem moving Ramsey out. They feel he underperformed. They feel he was more trouble than he was worth. And by that, I mean mostly in the football sense. Whereas Smith is fresh off by far the peak performance of his career. In fact, it's such a peak for him that it might be of concern to some. Consider that Smith had 88 catches this past season. 88. Fourth most in the NFL. His previous high for catches in a season was 50. Dude's been around for a while. He went from 50 to 88. His targets were at 109. Previous high, 69. He had 40 more targets than he'd ever had before. Also matched his career best with 8 receiving touchdowns. So does that tell you that this was just some aberration, that it was a fluke? Or does it tell you that he finally got utilized to his abilities? And you know who would have had something to do with that previously? That, of course, being Arthur Smith, who was either his coordinator or his head coach in Nashville and Atlanta before this. Digging a little bit deeper into his metrics, it could also be seen that the Miami coaching staff was utilizing him in more formations, in more schemes, having him run more routes. Why? Well, first off, he was obviously catching the football. Second, the Miami offense showed a big drop-off for receivers not named Jonnu Smith whenever Tua Tagovailoa was out, and Tua's out a lot. And lastly here, Jonnu's not some great run blocker. When it comes to tight end blocking, he is seen as a probably either average or above average pass blocker. He does the job. But a tight end with 88 catches isn't doing a lot of pass blocking. He's going out for the pass. So as you can pick up from accumulating all of this and rolling it up into a ball, Arthur Smith, even though he obviously has intimate familiarity with Jonnu Smith, has work ahead of him to make this fit, because this is not a match, this general scenario, for what Arthur Smith was deploying in Atlanta. Look at it like this. Forget the Titans, forget the Dolphins, forget everything that came before, and just look at what's showing up in Latrobe. Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith have more similarities than they do differences. Darnell Washington has more differences than he does similarities with those two. So the easy thing to throw out here is that, well, you're just going to use Darnell when it's time to run, and you're going to use the other two when it's time to pass. Problem with that is you're also lighting a great big neon sign letting the other guys know what you're going to do. So here's what I think could happen. Don't hold me to this. It's not a prediction. I'm trying to cobble some pieces together. I think you could see Jonnu Smith get plugged into a role that was supposed to be going to Donald Parham before Parham's Achilles knocked him out for the season for the Steelers. But because Parham was going to be a clear TE3 in terms of snaps, depth chart, whatever you want to call it, that's obviously not going to be enough for the guy who was, again, the fourth leading receiver among tight ends in the entire league. What you can do is stick with the two tight ends that you've got in the basic formations that they're usually in. That means Freiermuth, that means Washington. And use Jonnu Smith as something of, if I say wild card, I'm going to make it sound like he's not going to play much. He's going to play. He's going to play a lot. But you could use him more in the sense of, instead of just saying, here's three tight ends, we're going to put them all down on the line of scrimmage and go from there. You could have Jonnu Smith do more of the stuff that, say, for example, Connor Hayward was doing. You do some H-back stuff. You do some fullback stuff. You line up in some unusual formations. Anything that makes this offense less predictable is going to offer it the chance to become more dynamic and more, here comes my word again, rhythmic. Do different stuff. Keep the other guys guessing. Go short, go deep, even go intermediate. Go to the sidelines, go across the middle. Run quick slants to Calvin Austin. Get both of your regular running backs involved, including in the passing game. If you're going to go out of your way to get Aaron Rodgers here, take advantage of one of the many traits that Rodgers has that gives him an advantage over most defenses and has over the course of his career, which is that he's going to outsmart them. He's going to outknowledge them. He's going to outread them. More weapons equals more chances to keep them tilting and wondering what's happening next. As I'm seeing it in the moment, and man, I can't wait to actually see it in Latrobe, Jonnu Smith can play a really big role in all this. When we come back, J1Q.
This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar.
Today's J1Q comes from Rob, who asks, why are so many people acting like Arthur Smith is some offensive genius? He had peak Derrick Henry in Nashville when he was the OC there. Not a lot of thinking going into that offense. His offenses have consistently ranked in the bottom of the NFL in terms of yards and points, with the exception of those 2 years with the Titans when he was gifted a Paul Skeens-like running back. If you look at the rankings, Smith is a slight improvement over the previous coordinator. Ow, man. You could just tell Rob wasn't going to get through that without the Matt Canada dig. Like, it was just a matter of time. Even though he didn't use Canada's actual name, it was a sense. It was a boulder rolling down the hill. Rob, I don't know where you get the idea, and I mean this literally, not in some cynical tone, that people are acting like Arthur Smith is an offensive genius. If you have something specific to say on that point, I wish you had. I can only speak for myself here. I've never characterized Coach Smith in any significant capacity. In fact, probably about 99% of the time anybody's asking me anything about him or to evaluate him or to grade him or whatever, I just come back with an incomplete because I feel that's fairest to the man. We all know, you know, Rob, why he was brought here. You know what the Steelers' intent was in bringing him, and you know how it is supposed to align with the way the roster's being put together by Omar Khan, Andy Weidel, and of course Mike Tomlin. They don't say they want to be the Eagles, but they kind of want to be the Eagles. As such, the bigger and badder you are, the greater the chance you have to be the Eagles. One problem, of course, with being the Eagles is you have to start out with their all-universe lines, plural, both sides of the ball. Philadelphia wins in the trenches. The other guys get the glory, but the wins happen right up front. Again, both directions. Smith comes here with the mandate to move the offense toward his direction. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm sure he hasn't gotten his way with every little thing since he's been here, but I do know that he's gotten away with quite a bit of what he wants. He wanted a running back, multiple running backs who could handle the wide zone blocking scheme. Najee Harris couldn't do it. Najee didn't have his fifth-year option picked up, seemingly out of nowhere. Najee's gone. Kenny Gainwell, formerly of which team? Right, the Eagles, who had a big game against the Steelers, backing up Saquon Barkley, in large part because of his ability to run outside, gets added through free agency. Caleb Johnson gets drafted, much to the delight of Arthur Smith. Caleb tells us in the interview room the night that he's drafted that he's got the experience that's needed in that scheme. Jaylen Warren's always been a fit for it. Arthur Smith wanted to have a different WR1 than the one they had, who was the constant headache. Hello, DK Metcalf. Goodbye, George Pickens. Good riddance, George Pickens. And I did just invest an entire segment on the tight end who will now be following Arthur Smith to a third NFL destination. What's missing? What's left out of this? I'm purposely leaving quarterback out because we have to see with our own eyes how Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers function together. And I'm also going to leave out the entire offensive line. Why? They need to show that. So in my saying this, Rob, to go back to your initial point, am I suggesting that Arthur Smith is an offensive genius who deserves, roses thrown at his feet whenever he walks onto the campus at St. Vincent? No. But he is the coordinator. He does come here with a resume. He's known for the work ethic that he's got. He's known for the passion that he's got. He's known for the ingenuity that he's got. And somewhere along the way, he was deemed by Arthur Blank and the Falcons to be worthy of a head coaching spot. At the human level, I find him to be as approachable as any coordinator I've covered. I find him to be insightful, intelligent, open to divergent viewpoints, open to criticism. And because of all of that, I am both eager and excited, like legit excited, to see how all of this comes together. Not necessarily for the 7th of September in the swamps of New Jersey, but, as the season progresses. I appreciate the question, Rob. I do. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We're going to have our double shot of Steelers today at 4 p.m. Eastern on both our YouTube channel and the DK Pittsburgh Sports app and website. And then after that, we, like you, won't be around for the 4th of July weekend. I'll actually be in Seattle covering baseball, but I hope you have a terrific weekend and a safe one at that, especially if you're traveling. Appreciate you guys. We'll be back on Monday with another Daily Shot of Steelers.